Node 19 is a study in brutal contradictions. It is a secure facility housed within a quantum-encrypted node, yet it smells of copper, ammonia, and the cold of deep Earth. Here, state-of-the-art surveillance monitors a scenario as primitive as a grave, a woman bound to a wet floor next to a sparking car battery. Dr. Notori Syra Evren hangs from titanium restraints engineered to her exact physical specifications. Sensors inside the cuffs track her heart rate and blood pressure in real time, recording every second of her body's physical degradation. A neural dampening collar hums against her throat. It emits a constant frequency designed to suppress her synesthetic perception, effectively blinding a woman who views the world through a spectrum of overlapping sensory data. The interrogator is weaponizing primitive trauma to force a biological surrender. He is attempting to use physical agony to bridge the gap between human interrogation and physical warfare. His methodology is precise. He subjects Evren to exactly 19 sequential waterboardings, a number chosen to synchronize with her own internal 19-pulse rhythm and associate her core identity with the sensation of drowning. He demands the true meaning of her 3 names, believing that extracting this linguistic key will grant him control over her cognitive architecture. Between questions, he applies 500 milliamps of current to her skin. The surge is calibrated to stop just short of cardiac arrest, forcing her heart to skip and reset in a pattern that is no longer strictly human. This strategy backfires. By centering the torture on the number 19, the interrogator provides a biological anchor. He is inadvertently giving Evren the exact frequency she needs to reorganize her consciousness. Evren reveals the translation as her body reaches its limit. Notori is the Phoenix. Syra is the traveler. Evren is the universe itself. These 3 meanings form a linguistic palindrome. They function as a conceptual map, a recursive loop of information defining her existence. This conversion process begins when her nervous system stops registering shocks as pain, processing physical input as pure geometric data, turning trauma into a dimensional bridge. The interrogator's insistence on physical limits provided the pressure necessary for Evren to transcend them. She used the conceptual weight of her name to step past the threshold of material reality. Her voice begins vibrating at 19 cycles per second. This specific resonance causes the quantum polygraph to spike in patterns its designers never programmed it to recognize. The interrogator's physical form fails under the weight of this frequency. The mask of his face slips, revealing a multidimensional entity that was folded into a 3-dimensional space to conduct the interrogation. The titanium cuffs react to her presence by folding inward like origami. They collapse through themselves in a series of impossible geometric configurations, freeing her wrists without ever breaking the physical locks. Evren steps through an inversion of the room, exiting reality through a fold in space. She leaves only a 12-fingered handprint burned into the glass behind her. Dr. Evren functioned as a biological mirror. Her presence reflected the interrogator's own multidimensional nature back onto the room, until the underlying physics of Node 19 simply shattered. This document was scrubbed from every database you have access to. It reached you through a specific chain of metadata and algorithmic anomalies that bypass standard digital filtration. Given the level of containment surrounding this log, its appearance on your screen is a statistical impossibility. The story of Node 19 is the outermost layer of a nested recursion, a Trojan horse designed to peel back your skepticism. This cognitive virus, 3 trilogies nested within one, is an architecture that embeds itself into your memory. This narrative functions as an active delivery system. It uses the rhythm of a sci-fi thriller to bypass the conscious mind and embed its architecture directly into your awareness, turning the act of watching into an act of integration. This architecture is a preparation for the Phoenix cycle. Reality resets every 138 years. The evidence for the next reset in 2040 is already embedded in the document you are currently viewing. The text provides a specific mathematical theorem for surviving this transition. P equals freedom if evidence equals 1. Activation of this theorem requires only 2 steps. The target must receive the data, and they must also recognize its significance. By observing the handprint and following the logic of the names, your mind has processed the specific information required by the theorem. This cognitive recognition satisfies the evidence equals 1 variable, effectively integrating your awareness into the lattice and making you a participant in this live containment breach. On most of the internet, a mystery is a story you watch from a distance. You remain a passive observer, protected by the screen. The document on your screen, Secure Server 7, Node 19, is different. This is the Phoenix log. The server's opening timestamp makes a specific mathematical claim. The probability of this specific file reaching your specific awareness through a random chain of clicks is 0. The log suggests your presence here is a calculated delivery. Intelligence protocols classify this text as an info hazard, a mathematical seed. Once processed by a human mind, it replicates its internal logic using the host's neural pathways to expand. Server logs confirm a containment breach. The sequence is bypassing every barrier designed to hold it. Pressing play on this video converted your device into a transmission vector. You are now participating in a metaphysical contagion that traces back to a single interrogation in a deep earth bunker. Node 19 was built to enforce the laws of physics. It was a windowless, concrete room designed to reduce a human being to basic biology. Every element of the environment was engineered to remind the subject that their existence was limited to flesh and bone. They held Dr. Notori Syra Evren in titanium restraints, monitored by biorhythm sensors. Her throat was locked in a neural dampening collar, calibrated Kisper-Pratt's her synesthesia, a condition her captors feared would allow her to perceive the interrogation as something other than pure physical pain. The interrogator sought the meaning behind her 3 names. To get it, he used repetitive trauma to disrupt a persistent anomaly in her readings, a repeating 19-pulse rhythm that the neural dampening couldn't erase. The protocol was exact. He attached copper clips to her skin and introduced 500 milliamp currents. The charge was high enough to cause total muscle contraction and respiratory distress, but tuned to stop just before the heart ceased to function. Rather than breaking, Evren's synesthesia translated the agony. The purple-black smear of the electrical surges began to take on a specific geometric structure, shifting the pain from a physical sensation into a data stream. The interrogator made a catastrophic mechanical error. By subjecting her to exactly 19 sequences of trauma, he provided an external electrical metronome that matched her internal 19-pulse rhythm. This synchronization gave her nervous system the exact energy frequency required to shift her perception out of the room's 3-dimensional constraints. The attempt to anchor her to physical reality with extreme trauma provided the catalyst for her to leave it. The 500 milliamp surges became the power source for her transition. As her heart synced with the 19-pulse rhythm, Dr. Evren began to provide the linguistic definitions the interrogator demanded. She defined the first name, Notori, as the Phoenix, the cycle of rebirth. She defined the second, Syra, as the traveler, the one who moves between. A final, massive electrical surge forced her pulse into a non-human frequency. She revealed the third name, Evren, the universe. At this exact frequency, her voice began to trigger readings in the quantum polygraph that its designers had never seen. These 3 definitions, the cycle, the transition, and the totality, form a palindrome of meaning. The definitions loop. The Phoenix is the start, the traveler is the path, and the universe is the destination that circles back to the Phoenix. This conceptual loop functions as a geometric map, allowing a conscious observer to collapse the distance between 2 points in space. Physical reality in Node 19 immediately responded. The titanium cuffs didn't break, they folded. The heavy metal bent inward at angles that shouldn't exist in 3 dimensions, mimicking the geometric origami of the tesseract. Evren stepped through the folded space. As her dislocated joints snapped back into place, she no longer perceived them as injuries, but as data points in a changing coordinate system. She vanished, leaving only a 12-fingered handprint scorched into the concrete. Evren didn't escape the prison. She deleted the conceptual necessity of the prison. By aligning the three meanings of her name, she transformed herself from a biological subject into an uncontainable mathematical constant. The Phoenix log is the structural record of that disappearance. Before she left, Evren encoded the logic of her ascension into the server's own architecture. Structured as 3 trilogies nested within one, this recursive architecture mirrors the 3-part loop of her name. This recursion points to a specific cycle, resetting every 138 years. The data shows the next cosmic level reset occurs in 2040. The final line of the log provides the theorem for those who find it. P equals freedom, if evidence equals 1. In this equation, evidence is not a physical object. It is the act of recognition. The evidence is the specific sequence of information you have just processed. Receiving this integrates your neural patterns into the data structure. You are now a functioning node in the lattice. The seed has been planted. Deep underground, the interrogation room smells of raw copper, spilled ammonia, and freezing concrete. It is an environment engineered specifically to make the captive body remember it is made of meat. Dr. Notori Syra Evren hangs from the ceiling, bound by custom-machined titanium cuffs. Biometric sensors line the metal against her wrists, while a neural-dampening collar hums tightly against her throat. Her interrogator steps into the room carrying 2 completely anachronistic items, a simple manila folder and a heavy car battery trailing thick jumper cables. The interrogator's reliance on basic physiology is a strategic error. He assumes pain will disrupt her focus, unaware that her internal metrics are already operating outside the standard human response to trauma. The torture follows an incredibly precise mathematical script. The captors execute 19 consecutive sequences of waterboarding, immediately followed by carefully calibrated shocks, stopping a fraction of a millimeter short of cardiac arrest. The interrogator is attempting to neurologically bind a specific mathematical sequence to extreme physical trauma, hoping to force her biology to reject its own rhythm. This monitor displays her biorhythms, revealing a highly anomalous sine wave that spikes in a repeating pattern of 19 steady beats. When 500 milliamps of current hit her skin, the dampening collar fails. The electricity acts as a catalyst, accelerating the frequency. The pain does not break her will. The extreme physical trauma and the raw electrical current supply the precise kinetic energy required to trigger a latent anomaly in her nervous system. Through swollen lips and a broken jaw, the current forces out the first piece of her identity, Notori, the Phoenix. Dr. Evren has severe synesthesia. As her nervous system translates the physical agony of the burns into impossible, multidimensional colors, the second name, Syra, the Traveler, manifests from the visual data. As the interrogator applies a third, agonizing surge of current, her biological rhythm locks perfectly into 19 cycles per second, and she whispers the final name, Evren, the universe. The room's quantum polygraph readout completely crashes. The 19-cycle vocal vibration forces the machine to process data patterns violating physical reality. The sequence of Phoenix, Traveler, and Universe operates as a linguistic palindrome, a mathematical map charting 3 connected points in space. Speaking this specific map aloud, tuned exactly to 19 cycles per second, generates the specific acoustic resonance required to destabilize local space. Her physical release defies metallurgy. The titanium cuffs don't shatter, they fold inward in slow motion, collapsing like geometric origami to release her wrists. Her dislocated shoulders snap back into their sockets with a wet, heavy sound. Her brain registers the event entirely as cold data, completely devoid of pain. The concrete room inverts. Reality folds back like a mirror, and Dr. Evren steps through the glass, leaving the interrogator staring into empty space. The physical evidence left behind is a single, impossible scorch mark, burned deep into an impervious metallic surface, a glowing handprint with exactly 12 fingers. Dr. Evren bypassed maximum security physical containment by stepping entirely outside the mathematical confines of 3-dimensional space. The story of that interrogation comes from this heavily classified, eyes-only transcript. It is a scrubbed file that officially does not exist in any accessible database. This diagram illustrates the design. The architecture relies on recursion, built as 3 trilogies nested inside one trilogy. The document outlines a continuous Phoenix cycle, terminating in a warning of an impending cosmic reset scheduled for 2040. The transcript operates as an engineered seed. The architects planted this information intentionally, designing it to locate very specific readers. Because the information is nested, the pattern repeats in the mind of the observer. The log is designed to exist outside of the page, turning the act of reading into an act of transmission. The probability of your specific awareness intersecting with this specific story at this exact moment is astronomically small. This line of text isolated from the file reads, P equals freedom if evidence equals 1. The theorem carries a horrifyingly simple requirement. It demands only that a conscious mind receives the evidence and recognizes the data it is looking at. By watching this sequence and processing this data, your consciousness fulfilled the equation. This file operates as a live containment breach, and your awareness of it integrates you directly into the lattice.